Hi, my name is Pogo. I just arrived in Canada today, and I'm here at the veterinarians for a checkup. One of the things the doc is talking to my new mom about is rabies. Rabies is a really scary disease. In Canada, rabies is found in certain kinds of wildlife, but in many other parts of the world, including where I'm from, there's a certain strain of rabies that's also found in a lot of dogs. When a dog with rabies bites a person, the person can get infected too. People and animals who get infected with rabies almost always die, which is so scary and sad. So it's important to do everything we can to prevent rabies in animals and people. One of the best ways to prevent rabies is by vaccinating dogs. Rabies vaccines for animals in Canada work really well and can help protect dogs like me from getting infected if I'm bitten by a rabid animal. But sometimes vaccines from other countries don't work as well. Vaccines also need to be kept cold and need to be given the right way in order to work the way they're supposed to. And that can be really hard to do in some places where they don't have reliable electricity or refrigerators or a lot of veterinarians. Vaccines also work best if they're given before a dog gets exposed to rabies virus. If the vaccine is given after the exposure, it may already be too late to stop the infection. Here's why. Rabies is transmitted from an infected animal through saliva, usually when the animal bites a person or another animal. Once inside the body, the virus works its way to the nerves and then travels up nerves to the spinal cord and brain. This process, known as the incubation period, can take a long time, sometimes up to 6 months. Animals are not infectious to others during most of the incubation period, but they also don't look sick, so there's no way to know they're carrying the rabies virus. Once the virus reaches the nerves, it is protected from the immune system, so vaccinating the animal will not prevent rabies from reaching the brain. So, if a dog gets bitten by a rabid animal before it's been properly vaccinated against rabies, it can incubate the virus for months and carry the virus wherever it goes, even if the dog travels to another country like I did. Vaccinating a dog that is incubating rabies won't prevent the virus from causing infection, and we can't tell when the virus will reach the dog's brain. After it reaches the brain, the virus then spreads to the salivary glands, and that's when the dog can start to infect others. Within 10 days after that, the dog will start to get sick from rabies, and very sadly, there's nothing even the doc can do to save a dog once the brain is infected. So people need to be very careful around dogs like me from countries where there's a lot of rabies in dogs, until enough time has passed that we're sure there's no rabies virus in my body. That usually takes about 6 months. I had to get a rabies vaccine before I was allowed to come to Canada, but my new mom also asked the doc if we could do a special blood test called a rabies antibody titer. This test helped show that my immune system started to produce antibodies against rabies after I was vaccinated. Antibodies are part of the immune response that helps protect me if I'm exposed to rabies later on. But it's important to remember that even a dog with a good antibody titer can still be incubating rabies, especially if the virus was already hiding in its nerves on the way to the brain before the dog got its rabies vaccine. Sadly, there's no way to test an animal for the rabies virus itself before the animal dies, because the test has to be done on the brain. Having a good antibody titer also doesn't mean I can skip my regular rabies vaccine, because you can't tell for sure that I'm fully protected from rabies or not based on my titer. The safest and surest way to protect me is to make sure I get my vaccine every 1 or 3 years, like the label on the vaccine says. Because rabies is so scary, Canada takes rabies control very seriously. Although we have rabies strains in some of our wildlife, we want to prevent any new strains, like canine variant rabies, from also infecting animals and people here. Taking steps to prevent dogs that could be incubating rabies from coming to Canada helps protect Canadian families, wildlife, and furry friends like me.